What I want to do is talk about our next rule of inference, and that is Modus Tollens. Or Modus Tollens. There is a Modus Tollens and a Modus Tollens. We'll get to those a little bit later. But we've got Modus Tollens, or simply Modus Tollens, or I'm going to call it MT. Don't mix it up with Modus Ponens. And it involves some stuff with negations as well. So we have to be mindful of negations. And here's the way it looks. Whereas arrow out, or Modus Ponens, looks like this. You got the left side. You've got to match the left side. You can then get the right side. That's arrow out. That's Modus Tollens. That's what the pattern looks like. Here's what Modus Tollens looks like. A, arrow B. You've got an arrow. And then you have the, now I'll use some colloquialisms here. You've got the opposite of the right side. Technically the contrary. There's something we can get. So we got an arrow. We've got the opposite of the right side. More technically, you have a conditional statement, and then separately you have the contrary of the consequent. What can we get? Well, let me give an example with some stuff we've already used before. Let's say A stands for you work, and B stands for you get paid. Let's say the first premise here is true. You work, you get paid. Hey, you didn't get paid. So assuming these premises are true, what do we know? Oh, you did not work. So in short, if you've got a conditional statement and you have the contrary of the right side or of the consequent, or you have a negation of the necessity, you can say that there is a negation of the sufficiency. So Modus Tollens, literally, Modus Tollens, mode that denies by denying. So you have an arrow, you have the opposite of the right side, again, technically the contrary of the consequent, and you can get the contrary of the antecedent. Now, that's not the same thing as this. And then there are two big screw-ups. These are two big formal fallacies that people do, where people will conflate these. One is affirming the consequent. That's where you think you're doing this one, but you're doing this one. So these are things not to do. So affirming the consequent, you go, hey, A, arrow B. Hey, I've got the right side. That means I've got the left side. No, that's affirming the consequent. Then there's denying the antecedent. They're thinking, therefore, this. Both of these, let me just say, both of these are fallacious. Both of these are formal fallacies. Okay? This is good. This is good. These are bad. Now, I want to explain why real fast and make sure that you're not doing these. This works. If you work, you get paid. You work, you get paid. Assuming the premises are true, there's no way for the conclusion to be false. Valid. You work, you get paid. You didn't get paid, so you didn't work. That, assuming that the premises are true, no way that could be wrong. These are invalid because while the arguments or the deductions could follow, they don't follow with necessity. That's why they're bad. So this one, if you work, you get paid. Hey, you got paid, so you must have worked. I could have gotten a check from my grandma. I could have gotten some kind of government assistance, in which case I could have gotten paid without working. Okay, you've ever received a birthday card with some money in it, that would make this false. And so therefore, maybe it happened. Maybe you did work, but it doesn't follow with necessity. Okay? There's not a mustness to it. This one, you work, you get paid. You didn't work, so you didn't get paid. Again, same reason as this one. It's possible that you got a birthday card, a Christmas card in the mail, that you won the lottery, doesn't follow with necessity. So these are bad. Don't do these. Don't mix up Modus Tollens and Modus Tollens with these fallacies again, affirming the consequent and denying the antecedent, because these are bad and these are grand. So don't mix these up. Now, Modus Tollens, remember, this is the basic format. That does not mean that you can't incorporate other ways in which negations could be modified in there. Basically just means this. You got an arrow, you got the opposite of the right side, you get the opposite of the left side. So what happens when we've got this? what now? Now look carefully. What can we get here? We got not A, arrow, not B. We got B. Well, do we have an arrow? Yes. Do we have a match to the left side? No, so we're not doing this. Do we have the opposite of the right side? Yes, we do. What does that mean we can get? The opposite of the left side. What would be the opposite of the left side here? A. How do we get that? Modus Tollens 1 and 2. Now, if you want to be real special, real cute, what you could do is you could say, the opposite of not A would be not A. Modus Tollens 1 and 2. Okay, great. But then we could use double negation there, and we could say, so you mean A. Double negation. Still gets you the same thing. Now I'll say this. When we're doing translations, you should translate literally. If there is a not present, okay, that is an un, im, in, any of those prefixes or suffixes that mean not, or there's an unless in there where it needs to be on the left side of an arrow with a not in front of it, you should not go ahead and do the double negation in your head. You should translate it out literally. But in stuff like this modus tollens here, if you've got, when we're dealing with direct contraries, I'm fine with you saying that A is simply the opposite of the contrary of not A. Okay? I think that is intuitively true. I could be mistaken there, but I really think it's obvious that A is the opposite of not A. Okay? So that's modus tollens. This is a really handy one to use. Okay, so in fact, I'm going to reincorporate the order at this point. Now what we've got is, can you do arrow out? Can you do modus tollens? Can you do and out? Can you do and in? Can and should you do and in? Can and should you do double negation? And then move on to can and should I do arrow in? Now in the next video, I'm going to talk about what happens when you can't do any of these. You can't do anything. What should you do in that particular instance? And that's going to be called an indirect proof. So the next video, I will talk about indirect proofs. There are theorems like arrow ins. The other time we're going to use a provisional assumption. What are the situations that in which you need to use it? Basically, you can't do anything, and you've even tried arrow in, but your goal is not an arrow. What do you do in that situation? That's going to be an indirect proof.